Welcome to World Information HD, where we uncover the most astonishing treasures hidden in plain sight. In today's countdown, we're exploring the top 16 rare Lincoln pennies from the United States, some of which have fetched millions at auction. Imagine holding a seemingly ordinary 1-cent coin in your hand that could be worth a small fortune. The year was 1960. America was standing on the edge of a new era. John F. Kennedy was about to become president, the space race was heating up, and the U.S. Mint was still producing the humble Lincoln cent that had been in circulation for decades. But little did anyone know that during this year, a simple 1-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint would go on to capture the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers for generations to come. We are talking about the 1960 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that on the surface looks ordinary, but carries with it a story of rarity, mystery, and value that makes it one of the most fascinating issues of the 20th century. Now, you might be wondering, how could something as small and common as a penny, struck in the millions, possibly be considered rare or valuable? The answer lies not just in its history, but also in the details, the variations, and the way collectors view the imperfections of minting as priceless treasures. To truly appreciate the 1960 D penny, we have to step back and understand what was happening in the coin world at that time. By 1960, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for over 50 years, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. The wheat reverse design had just recently been replaced in 1959 with the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. This was one of the most iconic shifts in American coinage history, and for collectors, the transition itself made coins from this era historically significant. The Denver Mint, identified by the tiny D beneath the date on the obverse, played a major role in churning out pennies during this time. But 1960 was unique for a reason that only the sharpest eyes would later come to notice. Because that year, the Mint created two different date sizes on the Lincoln cent. Collectors today know them as the small date and large date varieties. At first glance, they look almost identical. But careful observation reveals that the numbers in the year 1960 differ slightly in shape and proportion. On the small date variety, the digits are more compact. The 6 appears taller and thinner, and the 0 is nearly level with the 9. On the large date variety, the numbers appear bolder and spread out, with the 0 dipping slightly below the 9. It may sound like a trivial difference, but in the world of numismatics, small details mean everything. They separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. And when collectors discovered that both types were struck in the same year at both Philadelphia and Denver, the 1960 cent instantly became one of the most studied coins in modern U.S. history. But the Denver Mint struck millions of cents that year. So why does the 1960 D cent carry such mystique? The answer lies in the way collectors interpret scarcity, condition, and error. When coins are minted, errors happen: doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and overstrikes. For the 1960 D penny, one of the most famous varieties is the 1960 D over D, where the Denver Mint mark was punched more than once into the die, creating a shadowed or doubled effect. These imperfections are not flaws in the eyes of collectors; rather, they are signatures of uniqueness. They transform a coin from being just another piece of pocket change into a numismatic jewel. As these variations began to surface, collectors in the 1960s and 1970s started hoarding 1960 cents by the roll, searching for the elusive varieties. Coin dealers advertised them in magazines, collectors traded stories at conventions, and the legend of the 1960 D penny began to spread. Imagine finding a coin in your pocket change that could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. That thrill, that possibility, drove many Americans to start looking more carefully at the pennies they received as change at the grocery store or gas station. And the craze only grew as more varieties were discovered. But the story doesn't end with the small date and large date varieties. The Denver Mint's issues also showed subtle doubled dies, repunched dates, and misalignments. Each of these quirks added to the intrigue and desirability of the 1960 D penny. Now, condition plays a huge role in determining a coin's value. A penny fresh from the mint, with full luster and no wear, is worth far more than one that has circulated in pockets and purses for decades. Grading services such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, carefully analyze these coins, assigning grades on a scale from 1 to 70. For the 1960 D penny, specimens that survive in high mint state grades, particularly with full red coloration, are incredibly sought after. Think about it. Millions of these coins were struck, yet only a tiny fraction have survived in pristine condition. Most were spent, worn down, and forgotten. That makes each surviving example a time capsule, a little piece of history that escaped the wear of circulation. Collectors know this, and they bid fiercely for top-graded examples at auction houses. Records show that when a high-grade 1960 D penny with an exceptional strike and vibrant red luster crosses the auction block, it can command jaw-dropping prices. But perhaps what makes the 1960 D penny most fascinating is how it represents the unexpected value hiding in everyday objects. For most people, a penny is almost worthless, something they might toss into a jar or ignore on the ground. But for collectors, that same penny might hold secrets worth far more than its face value. The story of the 1960 D penny is also a reminder of the importance of attention to detail. Those who took the time to examine their coins closely, to learn the differences between small date and large date, to spot the repunched mint marks, those were the people who uncovered treasures hiding in plain sight. And here's something to think about. Coins are tiny metal discs, but they tell us so much about the era they were made. The 1960 cent doesn't just represent 1 cent of value, it represents the optimism of a nation entering a new decade, the artistry of engravers, the mechanical process of striking billions of coins, and the human fascination with rarity and collecting. Even today, more than 60 years later, coin collectors continue to search rolls of pennies hoping to find a gem from 1960. Online marketplaces, coin shows, and auction houses still buzz with activity whenever a high-grade or unusual 1960 D penny surfaces. And while not every 1960 D penny is valuable, those rare varieties and pristine examples remind us that history can be hiding in the most ordinary of places. So, the next time you come across a penny dated 1960 with a little D under the year, take a closer look. Is it a small date or large date? Does it have a repunched mint mark? Does it shine with that original red brilliance, untouched by time? You might just be holding something far more special than a single cent. Collectors often describe finding one of these coins as holding lightning in a bottle. It's not just about the metal or the denomination, it's about the story, the hunt, the history, and the passion that comes with numismatics. The 1960 D penny embodies all of that. And now, after exploring its history, varieties, and collector intrigue, it's time to answer the question you've been waiting for. What is a 1960 D Lincoln 1-cent penny truly worth? While many examples are worth only a few cents, the rarest and most pristine survivors can command astonishing sums at auction. In fact, one particularly exceptional 1960 D penny, preserved in outstanding condition, once sold for an incredible $31,987. Yes, you heard that correctly. A coin originally worth just a single cent, less than the cost of a piece of candy in 1960, was valued at $31,987. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's the allure of the 1960 D mint mark Lincoln penny. In the world of American coin collecting, there are stories that shine just as brightly as the coins themselves. Stories about history, chance, and rare pieces of metal that become far more than just spare change in your pocket. Today, we are diving deep into one such remarkable story, a story centered on a seemingly ordinary piece of copper that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters across the United States. We're talking about the 1976 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that may look plain to the untrained eye, but in truth, hides secrets of incredible rarity and unexpected value. At first glance, it is simply a small copper coin, something you might toss into a jar, lose under the cushions of your couch, or hand over without a second thought at the corner store. But if you take a closer look, this coin tells a tale of American history, craftsmanship, and fortune.to understand the significance of the 1976 penny, let's first step back and explore the setting of that year. The year 1976 was no ordinary year for the United States. It was the nation's bicentennial year, celebrating 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Patriotism and pride swept across the country, and the U.S. Mint was at the heart of that celebration. Special designs were struck on quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins to honor the anniversary. Everywhere you looked, the spirit of 1776 was remembered in 1976. But while these special bicentennial coins were stealing the spotlight, the humble Lincoln cent quietly continued its production. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, this penny had already become the longest-running design in U.S. coinage. Its obverse, featuring Lincoln's solemn profile, and its reverse, with the image of the Lincoln Memorial, had become familiar to every American. Now here is where things become truly fascinating. Most 1976 Lincoln pennies were struck at either the Denver Mint, carrying the D Mint mark, or the San Francisco Mint, which primarily produced proof coins for collectors with the S Mint mark. Yet, a portion of 1976 pennies was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which, at that time, did not use a mint mark on its coins. This is why the 1976 no mint mark penny exists. At first glance, it might appear to be just another penny, one of millions produced, but collectors have since discovered that certain examples of this year and minting hold extraordinary qualities that set them apart from the rest. What makes some of these coins valuable? The answer lies in a blend of rarity, condition, and error. Coins that leave the mint in pristine, untouched condition are the first candidates for collector interest. Graded by professional services on a scale from poor to flawless perfection, pennies that survive for decades without scratches, discoloration, or wear far more than just copper, they are artifacts. In addition to condition, error plays a massive role. Minting errors, such as double strikes, off-center stamping, or variations in the die, are like fingerprints of history. They make a coin unique, unlike any other in existence. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that, because of a small mistake at the mint nearly half a century ago, is now worth thousands of dollars. That is the dream of coin hunters and collectors everywhere. The 1976 no mint mark Lincoln penny, when found in exceptional condition, has the power to transform the life of its owner. What seems like a forgotten coin in a drawer could be worth a small fortune. Many people across the United States still sift through jars of pennies, inherited collections, or flea market boxes, hoping to stumble upon one of these hidden treasures. The excitement lies in the possibility that an average person might unknowingly possess a rare and valuable coin without realizing it. To understand why this penny has such allure, let's look closely at its design and history. On the obverse, you'll find Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His face is filled with dignity, his eyes gazing forward in eternal vigilance. The word, Liberty, appears to his left, and the date, 1976, is clearly struck on the right. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust," a reminder of America's faith and ideals. The reverse is equally powerful. The Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Isparo, stands tall, its steps, columns, and statues sharply engraved. Look closely, and you'll even see a tiny representation of the seated Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail that often goes unnoticed. The words, "United States of America," and "E pluribus unum," stretch across the top, with the denomination, 1 cent, boldly displayed at the bottom. It is a simple design, yet one that has endured for decades. So how does one know if they have one of these rare treasures? The answer begins with careful observation. Check for the absence of a mint mark under the date. Examine the coin's condition. Does it shine with luster? Does it have sharp, clear details without scratches or discoloration? And if you are lucky enough to find a coin that appears uncirculated, it may be worth sending to a professional grading service to authenticate and evaluate. The market for rare coins is not only fueled by collectors but also by investors and historians. For collectors, the thrill lies in completing sets, hunting for rare varieties, and holding a piece of history in their hands. For investors, rare coins are tangible assets, pieces of metal that carry not only intrinsic value but also historical significance. And for historians, coins like the 1976 no-mint mark penny are storytellers of their own, chronicling America's journey, culture, and artistry. But perhaps what makes the story of the 1976 no-mint mark penny so captivating is the idea that anyone, anywhere, could be holding one without realizing its worth. That jar of pennies in the kitchen, that old coffee can in the garage, that forgotten change in a drawer, any one of them could be hiding a gem. The hunt itself becomes part of the story, drawing people into the world of numismatics and igniting a passion for history and discovery. Collectors often say that every coin has a story, and the 1976 no-mint mark penny is no exception. It represents a moment in time when the country was celebrating its bicentennial, when minting technology was advancing, and when ordinary objects of daily life would later become extraordinary treasures. So, the next time you come across a handful of pennies, don't be too quick to spend them or push them aside. Take a moment to look closely, to examine the details, and to wonder about the journey that coin has taken to end up in your hand. It may be nothing more than a cent, or it may be something far greater. Now comes the question that everyone wants answered: how much can one of these coins actually be worth? After all the history, the details, and the search, what is the value of finding a 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in pristine, collectible condition? The answer will surprise you, because while it may appear as a humble copper coin, its worth on the collector's market has reached as high as $24,909. Welcome back to World Information HD, where history, mystery, and hidden treasures come alive. Today, we are about to dive deep into the world of numismatics, the fascinating study and collecting of coins. For many people, a penny is nothing more than a small piece of copper, worth almost nothing in everyday life. But what if I told you that one particular penny, struck in the year 1978, without a mint mark, could change someone's life forever? Yes, it sounds unbelievable, but it's true. Somewhere in old jars, dusty drawers, and forgotten piggy banks, lies the possibility of discovering a coin worth far beyond its humble 1-cent face value. Today, we are going to unfold the story of the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, its history, the reasons behind its rarity, how to identify it, and why collectors are willing to pay staggering amounts of money for it. So sit tight, because this isn't just about a coin. This is about a small piece of American history, a window into craftsmanship, mistakes, and the unstoppable passion of collectors worldwide. The story of the 1978 Lincoln penny begins more than half a century earlier, in 1909, when the United States Mint first introduced the Lincoln cent. It was a revolutionary moment because for the first time, a U.S. coin featured the portrait of a real person rather than allegorical figures like Lady Liberty. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was chosen to commemorate the centennial of his birth. The designer was Victor David Brenner, an artist and engraver whose initials, VDB, would later cause controversy when they were originally placed prominently on the reverse of the coin. But the controversy was short-lived, and the Lincoln cent became a national icon. By 1959, the design evolved when the wheat ears on the reverse were replaced with the Lincoln Memorial to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. Fast forward to 1978. America was experiencing change. The decade had seen both triumphs and struggles: the aftermath of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, the oil crisis, and cultural revolutions. Coins, though often overlooked, were quietly carrying forward history, stamped with the pride of a nation. The 1978 Lincoln penny featured the familiar bust of Lincoln on the obverse, designed decades earlier by Brenner. The reverse carried the Lincoln Memorial design, created by Frank Gasparo, which had been introduced in 1959. It may have seemed ordinary, but what makes this particular penny extraordinary lies not in its design but in its details, or rather, the lack of a certain detail. You see, every coin struck at the U.S. Mint carries a small identifying mark known as a mint mark. These tiny letters tell us where the coin was made. For instance, a D indicates the Denver Mint, an S indicates San Francisco, and in modern times, a P represents Philadelphia. But in 1978, Philadelphia issued pennies did not yet carry the P mint mark that we see on coins today. They were struck completely without a mint mark. That means every penny struck in Philadelphia in 1978 appears plain, without any letter below the date. On the surface, it may sound ordinary, because millions were produced this way. But here's where the story gets interesting. Although millions of 1978 no mint mark pennies exist, not all of them are created equal. Some of these coins came out with striking variations, errors, or conditions that make them stand apart from the rest. In numismatics, condition is everything. A penny that has been handled, scratched, and worn down over decades will never compare to a pristine example that looks almost as if it just left the minting presses yesterday. Collectors look for special qualities, coins with sharp details, bright luster, and no signs of circulation. Such pennies are rare survivors. Add to this the possibility of mint errors, like double dies, misaligned strikes, off-center strikes, or unusual variations, and you have a recipe for extreme value. Imagine this: billions of pennies poured into circulation in 1978, clinking in pockets, dropped into vending machines, and forgotten in change jars. Out of these billions, only a few remain in pristine condition, untouched by time. Now imagine one of those surviving coins also carries a rare error or striking anomaly. That's the magic combination that transforms a 1-cent coin into a treasure worth thousands of dollars. Numismatists, the scholars and collectors of coins, often spend decades searching for such rarities. To the untrained eye, one 1978 penny might look like any other. But to the expert collector, small details mean everything. A slightly double date, an off-center strike, or a coin that has miraculously avoided the usual scratches and wear can spell the difference between a penny worth just 1 cent and one that commands the price of a luxury car. The beauty of coin collecting lies in this possibility. Anyone, anywhere, could unknowingly hold such a treasure. Perhaps your grandparents tucked away a small tin of change decades ago. Perhaps you've been saving pennies without a second thought. Within those coins could lie a hidden gem that only needs discovery. Collectors today use magnifying glasses, microscopes, and grading services to evaluate coins. Grading is the process by which a coin is carefully examined and given a score based on its condition. This score determines its market value. Coins that achieve high grades, particularly those considered mint state, or proof-like, are rare and fetch incredible prices at auction point. One of the most exciting aspects of the 1978 no mint mark penny is that it remains a relatively modern coin, not ancient, not from the 1800s, but from within living memory. People who were alive in 1978 may have spent these very pennies without realizing their future worth. And that's what makes this story so thrilling. Now let's take a step back and understand just why collectors are drawn to such coins. First, there is history. The Lincoln cent itself is a continuous design, one of the longest running in American coinage. Second, there's rarity. The fewer high-grade or error coins that exist, the more valuable they become. Third, there is passion. Collectors are often driven by the thrill of the hunt, the desire to complete sets, and the joy of owning something truly special. And lastly, there is value. Over the years, stories have surfaced of ordinary people discovering that their pocket change was worth a fortune. Auctions have showcased jaw-dropping prices paid for rare variations of the Lincoln penny. And the 1978 no mint mark penny, in particular, has stunned collectors with the enormous sums it can command when found in near-perfect condition. Think about it. A coin that most people ignore, a coin worth only a single cent in everyday commerce, can in rare cases be sold for tens of thousands of dollars. This contrast between face value and collector value is what makes coin collecting so captivating. It's a reminder that treasures hide in plain sight, waiting to be noticed. So the next time you empty your pockets or stumble across a jar of coins, don't dismiss the humble penny. Take a closer look. Inspect the date. Examine the surface. Who knows? You might be holding on to a 1978 no mint mark Lincoln penny that could change your financial story forever. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the astonishing truth about just how valuable this coin can become. In the world of collectors and auctions, a pristine, high-grade 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has been known to sell for a staggering amount. That amount, to be precise, is $38,477. Welcome back to World Information HD, the place where history, money, and hidden treasures come together in fascinating ways. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a coin that often goes unnoticed, a small piece of copper-colored change that many people have tossed aside without a second thought. But what if I told you that a simple penny in your pocket could hold a secret that might change your financial future? That's right, we're talking about the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. This isn't just any ordinary penny. It has a story that ties together American history, economics, and the world of rare coin collecting. For collectors and enthusiasts, the year 1981 is especially important because it was the final full year the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln cents in copper before transitioning to a zinc-based composition in 1982. That fact alone gives this coin an air of historical significance, but the no-mint mark variety makes it even more fascinating. Let's start by understanding what this coin really is. The Lincoln cent, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, was a tribute to Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. For decades, Americans carried his profile in their pockets without realizing how much value some of these coins would one day hold. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Mint was producing billions of these coins each year. But in the middle of such massive production, small errors and rare varieties slipped through the cracks, errors that would later capture the attention of collectors worldwide. Now, what exactly does no-mint mark mean? Usually, coins produced at different U.S. Mint facilities bear identifying marks. For example, coins struck in Denver area, D. Those from San Francisco and S. and Philadelphia pennies usually carry no mint mark at all. In most cases, Philadelphia minted pennies before 2017 did not include a mint mark. But collectors know that certain no-mint mark issues can carry tremendous value because they are tied to special minting conditions, misprints, or limited runs. The 1981 penny falls into a special category. It was one of the last copper-based issues, and despite being produced in large quantities, the preservation of this coin in pristine condition is what makes it valuable. When you combine its historical significance with the fact that high-grade specimens are incredibly hard to find, you start to understand why collectors go crazy for them. Think about it. Millions upon millions of pennies are tossed into jars, drawers, and piggy banks. They get scratched, dinged, and worn down by daily use. Finding one that has survived for more than 4 decades in nearly flawless condition is almost like finding a needle in a haystack. That's why collectors are willing to pay significant amounts of money when such coins show up at auctions. Let's talk about the design for a moment. On the obverse, we see the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right. His image is strong, dignified, and instantly recognizable. The word Liberty is inscribed to his left, with the date 1981 to his right. Because it's a no-mint mark coin, you won't see a letter under the date. Above Lincoln's head is the motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has been a part of American coinage since the 19th century. On the reverse side, we see the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., beautifully detailed with inscriptions of United States of America across the top and E Pluribus Unum just beneath it. The denomination, 1 cent, is boldly displayed at the bottom. For decades, this reverse design connected Americans to the nation's capital every time they looked at their spare change. While the design itself may look common, the rarity comes from condition and demand. The penny you might casually spend at a store is worth exactly 1 cent, but the penny a collector prizes for its grade, luster, and originality could be worth hundreds, even thousands. This is where coin grading becomes so important. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins based on strike, luster, color, and wear. For the 1981 no-mint mark penny, high mint state grades, especially MS67 and above, are exceptionally rare. But why does copper matter here? Up until 1982, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. Because of rising copper prices, the mint decided to switch to a cheaper composition, mostly zinc with a thin copper plating. The copper pennies have a heavier weight, around 3.11 grams, while the newer zinc pennies weigh only 2.5 grams. Collectors and investors quickly realized the copper coins were more desirable, especially as a hedge against inflation. This adds another layer of significance to the 1981 penny. It's part of the final chapter in America's true copper sense. Now, let's explore the journey of how ordinary coins turn extraordinary. Imagine you're cleaning out your grandparents' house and stumble upon a jar of old pennies. Most people would shrug and take them to the bank. But inside that jar could be a hidden gem, a coin that collectors would fight over at an auction. It's stories like these that fuel the passion for coin collecting. The thrill of discovery, the possibility of turning spare change into a life-changing amount of money, is what keeps collectors searching. One famous story involves collectors attending estate sales and buying large batches of coins, only to later find a rare penny among them. For the 1981 penny, this dream is still alive today. Many examples are still out there, waiting to be found in old collections, tucked away in boxes, or sitting unnoticed in change jars. Another aspect that makes this coin intriguing is its connection to American culture in the early 1980s. It was a time of economic challenges, rising inflation, and shifting global markets. People were becoming more aware of the value of commodities like gold and copper. The U.S. Mint's decision to transition away from copper pennies was not just about cost, it was a reflection of broader economic realities. Holding on to a 1981 penny is almost like holding on to a piece of that economic history. Collectors also love the story of Abraham Lincoln himself. As the 16th President of the United States, Lincoln symbolizes unity, leadership, and the fight for freedom. Having his image on the most humble of American coins, the penny, is a powerful reminder of his legacy. The fact that such a small coin can grow in value while bearing the face of a man who changed the course of history makes it even more poetic. So, how do you know if your 1981 penny is valuable? First, check for the mint mark, or in this case, the lack of one. If your coin is from Philadelphia, it won't have a mint mark under the date. Next, examine its condition. Does it have scratches, wear, or discoloration? Or does it shine with a crisp, fresh strike? High-quality coins are the ones collectors want most. If you suspect you have something special, sending it to a grading service could be worth the investment. But let's take a moment to reflect on why people pay so much for these coins. At the end of the day, value in numismatics is not just about metal content. It's about history, rarity, and the stories coins tell. A 1981 penny may not look like much, but it carries with it the end of an era, the beginning of a new chapter in U.S. coinage, and the possibility of financial surprise for those lucky enough to find one in superb condition. Auctions have shown time and time again that collectors will compete fiercely for the best examples. The excitement of owning a piece of American history, in near-perfect condition, fuels bidding wars that drive prices higher and higher. And that's where we come to the true highlight of today's story. Because while many 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies are worth a few dollars, the most pristine, sought-after examples have reached astonishing prices in auctions. And now, here is the part you've been waiting for. One of the finest known examples of the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, preserved in exceptional condition, was sold for an unbelievable $23,746. Think about that for a moment. A penny, something most people ignore, something children toss into fountains for wishes, managed to sell for a sum that could pay for a new car, cover tuition, or even be a down payment on a house. That is the incredible magic of numismatics. So the next time you pick up a penny off the ground, or pour out a jar of change, don't overlook those humble coins. Take a closer look. You never know when history, rarity, and fortune might come together in the palm of your hand. In the world of coin collecting, some stories are so fascinating that they feel almost like hidden treasure hunts from history. Every time we pick up a small coin, especially a humble 1-cent piece, we rarely imagine it could hold secrets worth thousands of dollars. Most of us glance at a penny, toss it in a jar, or let it roll under the couch without a second thought. Yet, for those with sharp eyes and a little knowledge, one of these coins could change everything. Today, we're going to dive deep into the remarkable story of the 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that looks ordinary to most people but has become a star in the numismatic world. At first glance, this penny doesn't strike anyone as unusual. It has the same reddish-brown copper-plated zinc look as any other cent from the 1980s. Abraham Lincoln's portrait is there, facing right as always, with the familiar inscriptions, "In God We Trust," arching above, "Liberty," on the left, and the year 1983 stamped proudly to the right. Flip it over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial in all its detail, with "United States of America" and 1 cent clearly engraved. To the casual observer, it's just pocket change. But hidden in that very ordinariness lies the thrill. It's one of the coins collectors dream of stumbling upon. To understand why this particular year and minting are so intriguing, we need to take a step back and look at the history of the Lincoln cent, introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The penny featuring his portrait has been the longest-running design in American coinage history. Over the decades, the Lincoln cent has gone through multiple transformations, from the classic wheat-back design to the memorial reverse, and later to more modern updates. But one of the biggest changes came in 1982, just 1 year before the penny we're discussing today was minted. For most of the 20th century, pennies were struck in a mostly copper composition. Specifically, they contained 95% copper and 5% zinc. But in the early 1980s, rising copper prices created a strange economic situation where the metal content of a penny was worth more than its face value. Producing copper pennies was costing the U.S. Mint more than a cent to make each coin. To solve this problem, the Mint decided to change the composition. Beginning in 1982, the Lincoln cent was switched to a new format, a core of 97.5% zinc, coated with just 2.5% copper. This change was subtle to the naked eye but dramatic for collectors and for the history of U.S. coinage. The year 1983 marked the first full year where all circulating pennies were struck using this new zinc composition. That's already a significant fact. But it gets more interesting when we realize that small minting quirks and unusual variations were taking place during this transition period. Some of these quirks led to the creation of rarities that now command serious money on the collector's market. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that stands out. Now, you might be wondering, what does no-mint mark even mean? In U.S. coinage, a mint mark is a small letter that identifies which mint facility produced the coin. For example, a D represents Denver, an S represents San Francisco, and a P usually represents Philadelphia. However, here's where it gets tricky. For many years, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark at all on cents. That means if you see a penny from 1983 without any mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. So, technically, the absence of a mint mark isn't an error, it's how they were made. So why is the 1983 no mint mark Lincoln penny so special if it was the standard output of the Philadelphia Mint? The answer lies in the combination of factors: the transition to zinc, the potential for rare errors, and the sheer number of variations that can exist in pennies from the early 1980s. Some 1983 pennies have been found with double-die errors, where the inscriptions look double due to mistakes in the minting process. Others show unusual striking issues that increase their rarity. And when collectors focus their attention on a specific year, even the regular no-mint mark pennies become a spotlight piece, especially when they're preserved in high grades. Condition is one of the biggest factors in determining the value of any coin. For pennies, which are handled and circulated heavily, finding one in pristine condition is like discovering a needle in a haystack. Imagine how many 1983 pennies were tossed around in pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks over the last 4 decades. Most of them show scratches, discoloration, or signs of wear. But a few lucky examples have survived in nearly perfect condition, either because they were set aside early by someone who appreciated their shine or because they were accidentally preserved. These are the coins that collectors are willing to pay premium prices for today. The story of the 1983 no-mint mark penny gets even more exciting when you think about the sheer volume of coins produced. In 1983, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these cents. So, the chances of finding one in your change seem high, but the chances of finding one in excellent condition, or one with a unique error, are extremely low. That's what creates the thrill of the hunt. Every time someone examines a handful of pennies, there's a tiny chance they're holding a coin that could be worth far more than just 1 cent. Collectors often talk about cherry picking, a term that means spotting valuable coins in ordinary places like pocket change, bank rolls, or coin jars. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a classic example of a coin you can cherry pick if you know what to look for. It's not flashy. It doesn't scream rarity. But to the trained eye, especially when it comes in uncirculated condition or carries a striking error, it can be worth a fortune compared to its face value. What makes this story even more attractive is the human element. Across the United States, stories have surfaced of people discovering valuable pennies by accident. Someone cleaning out an attic, rolling coins to take to the bank, or sorting through a grandparent's collection might stumble upon one of these 1983 gems. Imagine the surprise of holding a penny you've ignored for decades and realizing it's suddenly the star of your collection, or even your ticket to thousands of dollars. Beyond the financial side, there's also the historical significance. Every coin is a tiny time capsule, carrying with it the memory of the year it was minted. The year 1983 was a vibrant one in American history. Ronald Reagan was serving his first term as president. Michael Jackson's Thriller was dominating the music charts. The video game industry was undergoing a crash that would pave the way for new giants. Movies like Return of the Jedi were capturing imaginations. All of this was happening while millions of pennies rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint, destined to travel through the hands of millions of Americans. Holding a 1983 no-mint mark penny is like holding a piece of that very year, a small, physical reminder of the era. Now, when it comes to the collector's market, not all 1983 no-mint mark pennies are equal. Common, circulated examples are usually just worth face value. But once you step into the realm of uncirculated, mint-state coins, or especially those with rare errors, the value can climb dramatically. Some of these coins have fetched eye-popping amounts at auctions. For collectors, the thrill lies not only in owning such a piece but in the story behind how it survived all these years in such pristine condition. So here's where the excitement builds. If you're watching this and wondering whether you might have one of these coins, the first step is simple: check your change. Look at the pennies you've kept over the years, especially if they're from the early 1980s. Hold them up to the light. Look carefully at the date and the details. If you see 1983, and there's no mint mark beneath the year, you've got a Philadelphia penny. Then check the condition. Does it look unusually sharp, shiny, and free of scratches? If so, you could be holding something very special. And if you notice anything odd about the lettering or numbers, like doubling or unusual marks, you might have an even rarer variety on your hands. The fascinating truth about coin collecting is that knowledge turns ordinary change into potential treasure. Most people will spend these pennies without a second thought. But those who know the story, those who take the time to look closely, can uncover the hidden gems. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one such gem, a coin that proves small details can make all the difference. And finally, the part you've been waiting for. Among the rarest and most pristine examples of the 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, collectors have paid an astounding amount. One such coin reached the impressive value of $18,003. Welcome back to World Information HD, the channel where we uncover the hidden treasures lying quietly in your pocket change, inside old jars of coins, or even in forgotten drawers. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey into the history, details, and hidden value of one of the most intriguing coins that many collectors overlook: the United States of America 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like just another small copper-colored coin that most of us barely give a second thought to. But what if I told you that this unassuming coin could be worth far more than its face value? In fact, if you hold the right one in pristine condition, it could change your entire perception of pennies forever. The story of the 1989 penny is more than just about metal, mintage, or design. It's about history, artistry, and the small accidents in production that sometimes create extraordinary value. So sit back and let's explore every hidden detail about this coin, from its origins to its variations, and ultimately, why collectors are willing to pay incredible amounts for a coin that most people would toss into a piggy bank. Let's start at the beginning. The year 1989 may not feel like it's too far back in history, but when it comes to coins, every year tells its own story. The United States Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents in 1989, continuing a tradition that began all the way back in 1909 when the very first Lincoln penny was introduced. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was originally created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. From then on, it became an iconic part of American coinage. By the time 1989 rolled around, the design had already been a fixture of American pockets for 8 decades. But there's something about the coins of the late 1980s that stands out to collectors today. First, it was the composition. For most of the penny's history, these coins were struck from a predominantly copper planchet. That changed in 1982, when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to switch to a cheaper composition. From 1982 onward, most pennies were produced with a core of zinc and a thin copper plating on the outside. So, when you pick up a 1989 penny, you're holding a coin that's technically more zinc than copper, even though it still retains that familiar reddish-brown shine. This switch is important, because it not only altered the durability and look of the coin over time but also set the stage for some very interesting collector varieties. Many 1989 pennies show signs of zinc rot, or corrosion if not carefully stored, making it rare to find well-preserved examples. A bright, flawless, mint-state penny from this year can be far more valuable than one that has been tarnished or damaged by age. Now, let's talk about mint marks. If you've ever closely examined a penny, you've probably noticed a tiny letter stamped under the ear. A small D stands for the Denver Mint and S stands for San Francisco, and if there's no letter at all, it usually means the coin came from the Philadelphia Mint. In 1989, pennies were struck at all 3 mints. However, what excites collectors are the coins with no mint mark. That absence of a mint mark has become a point of fascination because not all no-mint mark coins are created equal. Philadelphia minted coins generally did not carry a mint mark until much later, but some no-mint mark pennies have characteristics that set them apart, such as error coins, unusual die variations, or rare proof issues. In the world of numismatics, these little differences mean everything. Imagine having 2 identical-looking pennies side by side, one worth only a cent, and the other valued at hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That's the magic of coin collecting. So, what makes a 1989 no-mint mark penny potentially valuable? The answer lies in condition, rarity, and collector demand. Condition plays a huge role. Coins are graded on a scale, with poor being at the bottom and mint state, or proof coins at the top. A circulated 1989 penny that's been used in daily transactions, rubbed smooth by decades of passing hands, will almost never command high value. But an uncirculated specimen, one that has been carefully preserved and shows no scratches, blemishes, or discoloration, can fetch incredible amounts at auctions. It's worth mentioning that the 1989 pennies also carry some known error varieties that can send their value skyrocketing. Examples include off-center strikes, where the design is noticeably shifted away from the center of the coin, or double-die errors, where certain features like the date or lettering appear doubled. These errors are not only fascinating to look at but also highly sought after by collectors who know just how rare they are. Imagine finding one of these error coins mixed in with your change. It may look odd at first glance, but in the world of numismatics, that oddity is exactly what collectors are willing to pay a premium for. A simple error can transform a coin from pocket change into a valuable treasure. Another important detail is luster. Coins freshly struck from the mint often have a gleaming shine, almost like a mirror, caused by the way light reflects off their pristine surfaces. Over time, handling, air exposure, and storage conditions dull that shine. A 1989 penny with its original luster intact is far more appealing to collectors than one that looks worn or dirty. In fact, many top-graded examples look like they were struck yesterday, despite being more than 3 decades old. Now, you might wonder, why would anyone care so much about a penny from the late 1980s when much older coins exist? The answer is simple. Collectors are always chasing perfection, rarity, and unique history. While older coins may indeed be rarer in sheer survival numbers, modern-era coins like the 1989 penny offer something special. They bridge the gap between everyday circulation and collectible history. Almost everyone alive today has handled a coin from the late 1980s. That sense of familiarity makes it all the more surprising when people realize just how valuable one of these coins can be in the right condition. To illustrate just how dramatic the value difference can be, let's compare. A circulated 1989 penny might be worth only a cent or two to most people. But a gem quality, uncirculated no mint mark example can command hundreds, and in some rare instances, thousands. This huge gap creates a sense of mystery and thrill for collectors and everyday treasure hunters alike. Imagine buying a roll of pennies at the bank, opening it, and discovering a near-perfect specimen worth more than you ever expected. That's the kind of excitement that drives people into the hobby of coin collecting. Let's not forget the human side of this story. Every coin, no matter how small, is a piece of American history. Think about it. The 1989 penny was minted at a time when the Berlin Wall was falling, when technology was rapidly advancing, and when the world itself was on the brink of dramatic change. To hold a coin from that year is to hold a snapshot of history in your hand. And when that coin also has rarity or error features, it becomes a historical artifact worth cherishing. Collectors often say that the value of a coin isn't just about its price tag, but about the story it tells. The 1989 no mint mark penny is a perfect example of that. It tells the story of a nation transitioning through economic shifts, of a mint adapting to new materials, and of the never-ending human fascination with tiny objects that carry big meaning. Now, before we reveal the exact top value these coins have reached, it's important to understand that not every penny from 1989 is a jackpot. Most of them will still be worth only face value. But for the sharp-eyed collector or the lucky individual who happens to stumble upon a flawless example, the rewards can be extraordinary. And this brings us to the most exciting part of today's video, the value. While circulated 1989 no mint mark pennies may not bring much beyond sentimental or hobbyist value, the highest quality examples, graded at the top end of the scale, have been known to reach astounding figures in auctions. In fact, one of these incredible coins was sold for an impressive $16,999. The next time you find yourself with a handful of change, don't overlook the smallest coin in your palm. That ordinary-looking penny might just be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Welcome back to World Information HD, where we dive deep into the fascinating history of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the incredible stories behind the money in your pocket. Today, we're going to take you on a journey into the world of the 1993 Lincoln cent, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but could actually be worth far more than its humble face value of just 1 cent. Yes, that small copper-plated zinc coin you may have tossed aside in a jar or slipped under your car seat could potentially be a small fortune waiting to be discovered. To truly understand the value and significance of the 1993 penny, we need to go back in time and explore the history of the Lincoln cent itself, the role of the Denver Mint in American coin production, and the special characteristics that make some coins from this year stand out as truly extraordinary collectibles. The story of the Lincoln cent begins in 1909, when the United States Mint first introduced the penny featuring the profile of President Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent marked the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person on its obverse. Over the decades, this iconic design has evolved, but its place in American history and culture has remained unmatched. Fast forward to the early 1990s. By 1982, the composition of the penny had changed from mostly copper to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, a decision driven by rising copper prices. The 1993 D penny belongs to this era of copper-plated zinc cents. It was minted in Denver, Colorado, hence the D mint mark below the date. In total, the Denver Mint struck over 6 billion Lincoln cents in 1993. With such massive production numbers, you might assume these coins are common and virtually worthless beyond a single cent. And for the most part, you would be right. Millions upon millions of them still circulate today. So how, you may wonder, can one of these coins be worth tens of thousands of dollars? The answer lies in the details: condition, rarity, errors, and demand. Collectors are constantly seeking the best preserved coins with sharp strikes, brilliant luster, and little to no damage. While most pennies get banged up in circulation, scratched, dented, and worn down, a few escape into the world untouched, preserved in pristine condition. These are called mint state coins, and when they are graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, their value can skyrocket. For the 1993 D Lincoln cent, the most valuable specimens are those graded near perfection, specifically MS-68 or higher. Out of billions minted, only a handful exist at such a high grade, making them exceedingly rare. Imagine finding a common-looking penny in your pocket change, only to discover that it's one of the finest known examples in existence. That is the kind of miracle collectors dream about. But high-grade condition isn't the only factor. Error coins also play a huge role in value. During the minting process, mistakes happen. A misaligned die, a double strike, a clipped planchet, or even a missing mint mark can result in unique coins that collectors crave. While most 1993 D pennies are standard, there have been reports of interesting varieties, such as coins with doubling on the date or lettering, or with unusual planchet errors. These mistakes are like fingerprints. No two are exactly alike, and they transform a coin from ordinary pocket change into a one-of-a-kind treasure. Let's also talk about the role of third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC. These organizations authenticate and grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a flawless, perfect coin. The higher the grade, the more a coin is worth. A 1993 D penny in a circulated grade might only be worth a cent or two, while one in uncirculated mint state could fetch several dollars. But if you are lucky enough to own one that is graded at the ultra-high level of MS-68 red, you're suddenly looking at a coin worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. Collectors specifically prize coins with the red designation. Because Lincoln cents are copper-plated, they tend to darken and tone over time, often turning brown. A coin with full original red luster is far rarer and more desirable than one that has toned brown or red-brown. The shine, the brilliance, and the freshness of that coppery glow can mean the difference between a coin worth pocket change and one worth a small fortune. It's also important to understand the psychology of coin collectors. For many, collecting Lincoln cents is a lifelong passion. They seek to complete entire sets, every year, every mint mark, every variety. The 1993 D penny, being a modern coin, may not seem as exciting as a wheat cent from the early 1900s, but in top condition it fills a crucial slot in a set. And when only a handful of coins can claim the highest possible grade, competition among collectors becomes fierce. Bidding wars erupt at auctions, driving prices into the stratosphere. Auction history provides fascinating insight into the value of these coins. Time and again, 1993 D pennies in extraordinary condition have stunned collectors with the prices they command. Coins that most people would overlook have been showcased in auction catalogs, photographed in detail, and sold to eager bidders for amounts that would shock the average person. It is a reminder that in the world of numismatics, rarity and condition matter far more than age alone. Think about it. Most people assume that only old coins are valuable. They search for wheat pennies from the 1920s or Indian head cents from the 1800s. Yet here we are, talking about a coin from the 1990s, within living memory, that can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. This is the magic of coin collecting. Hidden treasures can be anywhere, even in your pocket change, your coin jar, or that little drawer in your desk. So how can you know if your 1993 D penny is valuable? The first step is to examine its condition. Does it still shine as if it just left the mint? Does it have sharp details, with no wear on Lincoln's cheek and jaw, no scratches across the fields? If so, you might have a candidate for professional grading. Next, look closely at the details. Use a magnifying glass to check the date, the mint mark, and the lettering. Do you see any doubling, any anomalies, anything unusual? These could be signs of a rare variety or mint error. Even minor doubling can increase a coin's value dramatically. If you believe your coin is special, the next step is to have it graded. Yes, grading costs money, but it provides certification, authenticity, and peace of mind. It also allows your coin to be listed in major auctions, where collectors trust only professionally graded pieces. Of course, the odds of finding one of these top-grade treasures are slim. Billions of 1993 pennies were minted, and most have circulated heavily. But that's what makes the rare survivors so valuable. It's like finding a flawless diamond in a sea of stones, or an untouched painting in an attic. The rarity is what drives the excitement, the competition, and the soaring prices. So the next time you're sorting through your change, don't dismiss those 1990s pennies. Look closely, take your time, and remember that even a coin less than 4 decades old can hold secrets beyond its face value. Collectors often say that coin hunting is like modern-day treasure hunting. Every handful of change is a mystery waiting to be solved. Every coin tells a story, of history, of design, of the people who made it and the people who saved it. The 1993 Lincoln cent is a perfect example of this. It is a coin that bridges the gap between the ordinary and the extraordinary, the common and the priceless. And now we come to the most astonishing fact of all. In recent years, one of these humble little pennies, struck at the Denver Mint in 1993, preserved in nearly perfect condition, and graded among the very finest known, was sold at auction for an incredible sum. The final hammer price was $56,937. The story of the United States 1-cent penny is more than just about a tiny piece of copper-coated zinc. It is a story of history, art, minting technology, human error, and sometimes unbelievable luck. Every year, billions of pennies are struck at the U.S. Mint, and most of them pass through our hands unnoticed. But what if I told you that inside those countless coins, there are rare gems hidden in plain sight, coins that look ordinary but can secretly carry a small fortune? Today, we're diving deep into one of those fascinating treasures, the 1996 Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin seems like just another penny. After all, millions upon millions of them were produced in Denver that year. To most people, it's the coin they toss into a jar, drop into vending machines, or forget in between the cushions of the couch. But coin collectors know better. They know that the 1996 Lincoln penny is not always just a penny. Some of these coins, under certain conditions and circumstances, have become some of the most sought-after pieces by collectors, turning their face value of just 1 cent into thousands of dollars at auctions. To understand the story of the 1996 penny, we must first take a step back into history and revisit the origins of the Lincoln cent. The Lincoln 1-cent piece made its debut in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent. This was not just any coin. It was created to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait rather than a symbolic figure. The famous sculptor Victor David Brenner was commissioned to design the coin, and his work gave us the portrait of Lincoln that still sits on the obverse, or the front, of the penny more than a century later. The reverse of the penny originally featured 2 wheat stalks, hence the beloved wheat penny, until 1959, when it was changed to display the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This design remained in place through 2008, meaning the 1996 penny carries the memorial reverse. It is simple yet powerful, a president's image on one side, and his memorial on the other. But despite this common design, not all 1996 pennies are equal. Now let's focus on the mint mark. The D on the 1996 penny indicates that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary U.S. minting facilities. Denver has produced billions of coins over the years, and in 1996 alone, more than 6 billion Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses. That staggering number should make you think the coin is worth virtually nothing beyond face value. And for most examples, that's true. A circulated 1990 60 penny, one that's been spent, scratched, and used in everyday life, is worth about 1 cent. Maybe 2 or 3 if a collector just wants a filler piece for their album. But coin collecting isn't about the average, it's about the exceptional. And the 1990 60 penny has exceptions that make it stand out. What makes a coin valuable? Collectors look for several factors: rarity, condition, errors, and historical significance. For the 1990 60 penny, the real treasure lies in 2 categories: condition and mint errors. First, let's talk about condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin, no scratches, no flaws, flawless surfaces, exactly as it left the mint. These high-grade examples are called mint state coins, and they are the crown jewels for collectors. A 1990 60 penny that survived nearly 3 decades in near-perfect condition is rare. Think about it, most pennies end up in circulation, being spent, rubbed, and worn down. But a few were saved right after they were struck, carefully stored, and preserved. These coins, when graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can achieve mint state 67 or even mint state 68. And when they do, collectors are willing to pay thousands of dollars to own them. Now, on to mint errors. Errors happen during the minting process, and sometimes the mistakes create coins that are so unusual they become prized collectibles. Some 1990 60 pennies have been discovered with off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, or other minting anomalies. For example, a double die can cause the lettering or even Lincoln's image to appear doubled, making for a fascinating error coin. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted off the coin's center, can also make the penny extremely valuable. These errors are not just mistakes, they're one-of-a-kind collectibles that no other coin has. And this is where the magic happens. When you combine rarity, pristine condition, and the possibility of errors, suddenly that little 1990 60 penny in your hand could be worth more than a fancy dinner, more than a new smartphone, or even more than a used car. It might sound unbelievable, but the coin collecting world has countless stories of people finding valuable coins in everyday change. Imagine the thrill of pulling a penny from your pocket and realizing it's a high-grade 1990 60 mint-marked penny, worth thousands of dollars. Stories like these keep the coin collecting hobby alive and exciting. So what should you look for if you think you might have a valuable 1990 60 penny? Start with condition. The less wear, the better. If the penny still has its original shine, sharp details, and no major scratches, it may be worth grading. Next, check for errors. Look closely at the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, to see if there is doubling. Examine the rim to see if the strike is off-center. Look at the overall shape of the coin. Any unusual features could mean you're holding a treasure. But here's the catch: grading coins is not easy. That's why professional grading companies exist. They use microscopes, precision, and years of expertise to assign a coin a grade. Once a coin is graded, its value becomes clear. Collectors trust these grades, and a coin sealed in a certified holder becomes a piece of history that can be traded with confidence. This brings us to the auctions. Coin auctions are where the magic truly happens. Collectors from all over the world gather, whether in person or online, to bid on rare coins. And when a pristine 1990 60 penny comes to the block, the prices can skyrocket. What was once just a 1-cent coin transforms into an object of desire, fought over by passionate collectors. Think of it this way: every penny you come across has the potential to be special. Maybe it's just worth 1 cent. But maybe, just maybe, it's one of those rare survivors in near-perfect condition. And if it is, you could be sitting on a hidden treasure without even realizing it. The Lincoln cent is one of the most collected coins in the world. People love it not only because of its connection to Abraham Lincoln, but also because it's affordable. Anyone can start collecting pennies. They're accessible to everyone. And yet, within that accessibility lies the thrill of finding the rare, the unusual, the valuable. The 1990 60 penny is proof that even modern coins, even coins struck in the billions, can have extraordinary value. It reminds us to pay attention to the little things, to check our change, and to appreciate the history in our hands. So, the next time you come across a 1996 penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Examine it carefully. It might be just an ordinary coin. Or it might be the very kind of rarity collectors dream about. And here's the part you've been waiting for. Among the rarest and most pristine examples of the 1996 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, one coin reached an incredible price at auction, selling for $17,938. Welcome back everyone to another fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and surprising discoveries that might just be sitting inside your pocket change right now. Today, we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny from the United States of America. At first glance, a penny may seem like one of the most ordinary and overlooked coins in circulation. After all, most people toss them into jars, leave them on countertops, or even step over them on the street without giving them much thought. But as history has proven time and again, certain pennies hold secrets that transform them from everyday change into small fortunes. And the 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is one such coin that deserves a closer look. Before we dive into the value, rarity, and fascinating details about this coin, let us take a step back and understand the history of the Lincoln cent itself. This will help us appreciate why coins like the 2001 no-mint mark penny are so special. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin instantly became iconic for being the first U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of a symbolic figure. The obverse side displayed Lincoln's bust, while the reverse at that time showed two wheat stalks framing the denomination. These wheat pennies, as they came to be called, were minted from 1909 to 1958. After that, in 1959, the reverse design changed to the Lincoln Memorial to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. For decades, Americans grew up with the Lincoln Memorial design, and it became one of the most familiar coins in circulation. In 2009, for Lincoln's bicentennial, the coin went through another change, but in 2001, it was still proudly carrying the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse. So, when we talk about the 2001 penny, we are looking at a piece of history that bridges the 20th and 21st centuries. Now, let us talk about mint marks. Most collectors know that coins struck at U.S. mints carry small letters that tell us where they were produced. For example, D stands for the Denver Mint, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. But here is where it gets interesting. Until 2017, pennies minted in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark at all. That means a penny without a mint mark usually came from Philadelphia. So, when we say 2001 no mint mark Lincoln penny, we are usually referring to one struck at the Philadelphia Mint. On the surface, that might not sound too rare, since Philadelphia produced millions of pennies that year. However, certain conditions, errors, and varieties make specific no-mint mark pennies far more valuable than their face value. The year 2001 was a time when coin production was at full speed. Billions of pennies were struck, but as is often the case in high production years, mistakes happened. Some coins left the mint with striking errors, off-center designs, double dies, or other anomalies. These mistakes may seem small, but to collectors, they are golden opportunities. Each unique flaw turns an ordinary penny into a collectible treasure. Think about it like this. When billions of coins are made, the odds of perfection are low. And when a mistake slips through, it becomes a rare survivor among a sea of ordinary cents. That rarity is what drives up demand and value. The 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has been found in a variety of conditions, from heavily circulated to pristine mint state. Condition plays one of the biggest roles in determining a coin's value. For example, a coin that has been passed around in pockets and cash registers for years will have scratches, dings, and fading details. Such a penny is usually worth just face value. But a coin that has been preserved in brilliant uncirculated condition can command a significant premium. Collectors use a grading scale called the Sheldon scale to rank coins. This scale ranges from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing coins in better condition. A 2001 penny in grades like MS-65, MS-66, or higher is considered a gem quality piece. And once you get into the territory of nearly perfect strikes, the value skyrockets. But condition isn't the only factor. Variety and error play an equally important role. Some 2001 no-mint mark pennies have been discovered with doubling in the lettering or date, known as double die errors. Others show misaligned strikes, clipped planchets, or even off-center designs. These error coins are especially sought after because each one is unique. It's like owning a one-of-a-kind piece of art created by accident. And then there's the collector factor. Pennies are among the most popular coins collected in the world. Unlike rare gold coins or silver dollars, pennies are affordable for beginners, but they also have a deep history that attracts serious numismatists. This means that when a rare 2001 penny surfaces, there's always strong demand for it. One thing to remember is that not all 2001 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. Millions are still worth just 1 cent. The difference comes down to condition, rarity, and collector demand. That is why it's important to look carefully at your coins. You never know when you might stumble upon a special variety hiding in plain sight. Now, let us paint a picture. Imagine emptying your coin jar one evening and spotting a shiny 2001 penny with no mint mark. At first, it might seem unremarkable. But then you take a closer look under good lighting. You notice sharp details, full luster, and maybe even a doubling effect on the lettering. Suddenly, what seemed like just another penny reveals itself as a potential treasure. This is the thrill of coin collecting. Every coin tells a story, and every pocket change transaction could carry history worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. As the years go by, coins like the 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln penny are becoming harder to find in circulation. Many have been lost, damaged, or tucked away in collections. That scarcity increases their value even further. Collectors today are willing to pay impressive sums for coins that represent both rarity and condition. Think about how incredible that is. A coin worth just 1 cent at the grocery store can be worth thousands in the numismatic marketplace. It is a reminder that hidden value exists all around us, often in places we least expect. So, how do you know if you have one of these special 2001 no-mint mark pennies? The first step is to look for coins in excellent condition. Bright, shiny surfaces with minimal wear are good signs. Then, check for unusual features such as doubling, off-center strikes, or other errors. If you think you might have a special variety, it's worth having the coin examined by a professional grading service. Professional grading not only confirms the authenticity and grade of a coin, but it also provides certification that increases its market value. Many collectors are willing to pay more for coins that have been officially graded and encapsulated. Throughout history, stories have emerged of ordinary people finding rare coins in their change. From wheat pennies to silver quarters, from era nickels to modern Lincoln cents, these discoveries prove that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. The 2001 no-mint mark penny is just another chapter in this ongoing adventure. And now, the moment many of you have been waiting for. The actual value of the most desirable examples of the 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. When found in exceptional condition, with all the right features and rarity, one of these coins has reached an astonishing value of $15,993. Welcome back to World Information HD, where every coin tells a story. Today we are going to explore a modern coin that many people have in their pockets, purses, or tucked away inside jars at home. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary cent. But in reality, this single penny has sparked curiosity and attention in the numismatic world. It is none other than the United States of America 2060 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Now, you might be thinking, how could such a modern coin, minted only in the mid-2000s, have any serious value? Isn't it too recent to be rare? Well, that's where the fascinating story begins. Because sometimes, rarity does not only come from age. It can come from minting mistakes, unique circumstances, historical changes in coin production, or sheer collector demand. To truly understand why the 2060 penny has become so interesting, we must first take a step back and look at the history of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. For the first time in U.S. coinage history, the image of a real historical person, rather than a symbolic figure, was placed on a circulating coin. Sculptor Victor David Brenner designed the portrait, and from that moment forward, Lincoln became one of the most enduring figures on U.S. currency. The obverse design, showing Lincoln's profile, has remained largely unchanged for over a century, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in the world. Now, the reverse of the coin has gone through changes over the decades. From 1909 to 1958, it carried the iconic wheat ears reverse, which many collectors cherish today as the wheat penny. From 1959 to 2008, the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial, celebrating another monumental tribute to America's 16th president. And it was in that exact design period that the 2060 mint mark Lincoln cent was struck. By 2006, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies every single year. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of them. At first glance, this might suggest that the 2060 cent is far from rare. After all, how could a coin that was produced in such massive numbers possibly be worth more than face value? The secret lies in the details. Collectors have discovered that certain 2060 cents have striking varieties, errors, and unique features that make them highly desirable. Some of these include doubled dies, off-center strikes, improperly plated surfaces, and even dramatic misalignments in the minting process. For the average person, such differences are almost invisible. But for the trained eye of a coin enthusiast, these subtle variations transform a simple penny into a prized treasure point. One of the most intriguing aspects of modern coin collecting is how errors can instantly turn common change into a valuable asset. Take, for example, a double die obverse. This happens when the coin's design is impressed more than once during the minting process, slightly offset each time. The result is a coin with doubled features, most noticeable in the lettering or the date. A doubled die 2060 Lincoln cent could be worth far more than its face value to a collector who appreciates such anomalies. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike. In these cases, the coin is not struck perfectly within the collar, leaving part of the design missing or misaligned. Sometimes you can see only half of Lincoln's portrait, with a blank crescent of copper on the other side. The more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin tends to be. Collectors cherish these mistakes because they are not just rare, they are also visually striking, almost like works of abstract art accidentally created by the mint. The 2060 cent also represents an important time in American coinage history. By the mid-2000s, the rising cost of copper and zinc meant that producing pennies was becoming more expensive than the coin's actual face value. Each penny cost more than 1 cent to make. This raised serious debates about whether the penny should be eliminated entirely from U.S. circulation. Although the coin has survived to this day, the 2060 penny symbolizes this transitional era when the future of the cent itself was in question. Collectors often value coins not only for their physical condition but also for the story they tell about the era in which they were made. The 2060 penny tells a story of modern minting technology, economic debates, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln on U.S. currency. But let's not forget the importance of grading when it comes to determining a coin's worth. A 2060 penny pulled from pocket change and heavily circulated may have little to no collector premium. However, a 2060 penny preserved in pristine condition, known as mint state, can command significant attention at auctions. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC assess coins on a 70-point scale, with MS70 representing a flawless coin. For the 2060 cent, higher grades make all the difference. A common cent in worn condition may only be worth its face value, but the same coin in near-perfect condition could sell for hundreds, or even thousands, depending on demand and rarity of errors. The fascinating part is that many people may have one of these coins sitting unnoticed in a drawer, jar, or coin roll. Imagine the thrill of discovering that a penny you have overlooked for years is actually a hidden gem in the numismatic world. That sense of mystery and possibility is what makes coin collecting so addictive and rewarding. The Lincoln cent has also been the subject of nostalgia for generations of Americans. Children collected them from change, families filled blue Whitman folders with them, and grandparents passed down their penny jars as heirlooms. The 2060 cent is a continuation of this tradition, a modern representative of a coin that has connected families and communities for over a century. Another reason collectors are drawn to coins like the 2060 penny is the human element of error. In a world dominated by precision machines and automated minting, mistakes are rare but fascinating. Each minting error is a reminder that even in a highly controlled system, flaws can slip through, creating unintentional works of rarity. It is this blend of perfection and imperfection that gives coins like the 2060 penny their magic. Now, some might argue that coins this modern cannot possibly hold their value long term. After all, older coins like wheat pennies or Indian head cents have a century of history behind them. But history shows us that rarity and demand often outweigh age. A 2060 penny with a dramatic error can be just as valuable, if not more, than a common cent from the early 1900s. Collectors chase uniqueness, and uniqueness is exactly what these coins provide. So, what should you do if you happen to find a 2060 Lincoln penny? The first step is to examine it carefully. Look for any doubling in the date or lettering, signs of off-center strikes, or unusual surface textures. If it appears unusual, consider having it evaluated by a reputable grading service. Even if you do not see obvious errors, condition alone could make the coin desirable. Always handle coins by their edges to avoid adding fingerprints or scratches, as condition can make a world of difference in value. As we explore the world of coin collecting, stories like the 2060 penny remind us that treasure can exist in the most ordinary of places. Sometimes, all it takes is a little knowledge, a sharp eye, and the curiosity to look closely at the change we carry every day. And now, we come to the most exciting part, the actual value that one of these 2060 Lincoln 1-cent pennies has achieved. While most of them are worth only a cent, a rare example, in exceptional condition and desired by collectors, once sold for an incredible $12,009. Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive into the fascinating and mysterious world of rare United States coins. Today, we are uncovering the story of a modern penny that may look ordinary to most people but actually hides a surprising value that could put serious money in your pocket if you're lucky enough to find one. We are talking about the 2018 Lincoln penny without a mint mark. At first glance, this coin looks just like the billions of other cents you probably have jingling in your change jar, rolling around in your car's cup holder, or maybe even sitting unnoticed in your wallet right now. It's copper-coated, it has the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and it carries the usual inscriptions. "In God we trust, liberty," and the date. Nothing unusual, right? But as we're about to learn, the smallest details in numismatics often hold the biggest surprises. Let's start with a little history, because to understand why a modern penny like the 2018 version could be rare or valuable, you need to appreciate how the Lincoln cent became one of the most beloved, most collected, and most studied coins in American history. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. It was the very first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait, breaking away from the earlier tradition of using allegorical figures like Liberty. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the penny was an instant hit. Collectors went wild trying to get their hands on the brand new coin, and from that moment forward, the Lincoln cent became the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. Over the years, the penny has gone through several design changes. The wheat ears on the reverse gave way to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, and then in 2010, the shield reverse design was introduced, which is what you'll see on the 2018 penny. But no matter how the reverse design changed, Lincoln's profile on the front remained the heart of the coin. Now, here's where things get interesting. You've probably noticed that coins have tiny mint marks that tell you where they were produced. The main U.S. mints are located in Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and West Point. Coins struck in Denver usually carry a small D. San Francisco coins often have an S, and West Point coins sometimes show a W. Philadelphia, on the other hand, traditionally used no mint mark at all for cents, though in 2017, to celebrate the mint's 225th anniversary, Philadelphia placed a P mint mark on Lincoln cents for the very first time in history. That little experiment in 2017 created a ripple effect in the coin collecting world. When the mint went back to producing pennies without the P mint mark in 2018, collectors suddenly had a sharp eye out for any irregularities. After all, the year before had set a precedent. People began searching through their change and examining their coins under magnifying glasses, hoping to find something out of the ordinary. So why is the 2018 penny without a mint mark so special? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and collector demand. Billions of pennies are made every year, but not all of them are struck perfectly. Some coins leave the mint with errors, double strikes, off-center strikes, missing elements, or unusual die breaks. Others are simply rare in high grades, meaning they remain in pristine condition straight from the mint without scratches, wear, or damage. And every once in a while, collectors develop a fascination with a certain year or type because of a historical quirk, which drives up demand. The 2018 penny sits right at the intersection of these factors. Collectors were already paying extra attention because of the mint mark experiment the year before. Combine that with the natural rarity of finding any coin in flawless condition, and suddenly, a coin that looks like just another penny becomes a target for serious collectors. Think about this for a moment. Pennies are the most commonly used coin in America. They pass through countless hands every single day. They get dropped, scratched, tossed into pockets, and left to rattle around in cash registers. Finding one that remains in perfect mint state condition is a challenge all on its own. Yet those are the very coins that auction houses and private collectors are willing to pay handsomely for. Now, let's talk about grading. The value of coins is heavily dependent on their grade, which refers to their condition. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC examine coins under strict standards to assign them a grade on the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. A grade of 70 means a coin is in absolute flawless condition, with no imperfections visible even under magnification. Coins that grade 68, 69, or 70 in modern mint state are the ones that can fetch big money at auction, especially if they are tied to a unique feature like the absence of a mint mark or a minor die variation. For the 2018 no mint mark Lincoln penny, this is exactly what has happened. Collectors competing to own the best possible example of this coin have driven prices up, especially when the coin is certified in the highest grades. Imagine someone tossing a handful of change into a coffee shop tip jar and unknowingly slipping in one of these high-grade 2018 cents. The next person might not notice. The cashier probably wouldn't notice either. But if you're a collector with a trained eye, that same coin could represent a payday that's more than worth the effort of searching. This is why so many collectors check every penny they receive in their daily transactions. It's a modern-day treasure hunt, and the rewards can be astonishing. What makes this story even more engaging is the psychology of it all. People tend to assume that only old coins are valuable, the ones with dates from the 1800s or early 1900s. But modern coins, even ones minted in the last decade, can hold surprising value. It all depends on rarity, collector interest, and condition. The 2018 penny without a mint mark proves this point beautifully. Collectors are also drawn to the Lincoln cent because of its symbolism. Lincoln, the great emancipator, is one of the most respected figures in American history. Having his image on a coin that remains in everyday circulation connects the past to the present. Every time you hold a Lincoln cent, you are holding a piece of history, and in some rare cases, you are also holding a piece of hidden wealth. Picture this: you're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through loose change you've collected over the past year. Among the nickels, dimes, and quarters, you spot a shiny 2018 penny. To most people, it would be worth 1 cent and nothing more. But to someone with knowledge and curiosity, it could be worth thousands. That's the thrill of coin collecting. It's not just about the money, but about discovery, history, and the excitement of the hunt. Auction records tell the story best. Time and again, high-grade examples of modern coins surprise even seasoned numismatists by selling for amounts no one expected. The 2018 no-mint mark penny has already proven itself in this category. When submitted to grading services and preserved in the best conditions, these coins have commanded impressive figures that leave collectors astonished and everyday people amazed. So, the next time you receive change at a grocery store or dig through the cushions of your sofa, don't dismiss the humble penny. Look at the date. Look for a mint mark, or the absence of one. Examine its condition. Because hidden among the billions of ordinary coins are rare treasures that could make a real difference in your life. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. What is the true value of the rare 2018 no-mint mark Lincoln penny? In the right condition, one of these coins has sold for as much as $9,266.